This is the Flavor of Leadership podcast. I am your host, Clint Hoops. Together, we explore the unique blend of leadership wisdom that helps top leaders consistently achieve work goals, develop personally, and find fulfillment with family. Let's get started. Welcome to episode number 34. I've always found it interesting that all the technological devices we have in our lives all need to be charged by being plugged in, right? In order to get their recharge. But I find that it's interesting that on the flip side, as humans using all this technology, one of the best ways that we can recharge is actually by disconnecting from those very devices. And so disconnecting from those devices, I know, always helps me recharge mentally. And this last week, I actually just spent a few days up in the mountains with my dad, my brothers, my brother-in-law and his dad, as well as our sons that were all, older than about 5 years old or so. And we took a few days to head into the mountains, go fishing, hiking, sleep in tents, and just do all those fun things that just get you away from the normal day-to-day. We do this every year, and I look forward to this every time to be with family and to be able to be in the mountains. But I really look forward to the fact that there is no cell phone coverage over internet where we're at. And so it requires some preparation. It requires us to make sure everyone knows, hey, we're not going to have cell phone coverage. This is what you do. This is what needs to happen when we're gone, whether it be family or work or whatever it is. People are prepped and know that they can't get a hold of you. And in the end, it just works itself out. And I love it. This is a wonderful thing periodically to be able to do that. And so it's something I really enjoy. And it's amazing now, just coming off of that chance to just unplug. It is amazing how good you feel. And I almost forget how good it feels periodically to be able to do that. And it makes me think, man, why don't I do this more often? Why don't I just disconnect on a daily basis for a few hours in the evening? Rarely do I get urgent phone calls or urgent things in the evening. Maybe I need to be better at doing those, setting those kind of boundaries. And so there are some of those things that go through my mind and think, man, I need to consider this a little bit more. And I've done better at this at different times in life. Another interesting thing when camping is that we'll often just have conversations about just very random topics, about anything from just life, how's it going, to politics, to history, and even old music artists that maybe we're hearing some music playing. And it's funny how many times as we're having these conversations that our thoughts, or at least my thoughts, will go to, ooh, I should just look that up. We're talking about, some piece of history or some fact that comes up, a date or something. And we think, hey, we should just look that up and see when that is. And we can't. And so what do? We end up just keep talking about it until we can kind of figure it out and zone in. Okay, it's got to be around this date or this time, or this is really what it was. And we start asking different people until we zone in on, maybe the right answer, or at least the best answer that we're going to get, because we can't look it up. It's really quite fun, actually, to see your brain go and figure it out, because these days we give up so quickly on trying to remember those things or recall those things. We just don't have the need in our lives where we can look things up. I remember, as many do, right? Before we had so much of the internet and things just right there at our fingertips, even on phones, you'd be much more likely to call somebody and ask them what they knew about a topic. And nowadays we just look it up. We read an article, we watch, read a forum, we watch a YouTube video, and we get some of that information. And we do lose a piece of communication. I'm grateful for the technology. I'm grateful for the resources we have, but sometimes it is nice to disconnect and to be able to have those different interactions with people. Use your brain in a little bit different way. Going back to the technology analogy, talking about how, technology needs to be plugged in order to recharge. It actually makes me think again on the technology front. I find it interesting that whenever a computer stops functioning, right? We have our computers at work, and we can't quite figure out why it's having the problem. So it might be the printer is not disconnected, the internet is going in and out, some other random thing is ailing us on our computer, and we try to do everything we can think of. And what is the very first thing you're told to do if you call an IT person? What do they say? They say reset it. They say push the reset button or restart the computer or whatever it is, but you just have to take the time to restart, reset. Man, I find that for myself, that fixes my computer, 95% of the time. Some other times there is something else that has to happen, and then we cross that boat and we cross that bridge and we figure it out. But most of the time, just restarting seems to just reset everything for us. I believe we're in the same boat in our lives. I think when things don't function quite right and we're just kind of out of sorts a little bit mentally or in our leadership or in just our normal personal lives, we just don't feel like things are flowing quite right. Sometimes we just need to do a reset. The only issue is, what does a reset look like? I'm submitting to you today that one of the ways that we can reset is by actually disconnecting from our technology that we have. Disconnecting from your phone, from your email, from text messages, notifications, whatever it might be. I have a smartwatch as well, and it does it. It rings and beeps on my wrist sometimes, even when my phone's not with me. And those are things that you just get used to. And so disconnecting that can make all the difference to allow us to just kind of take things down a notch, reset, even if it's just for a few hours. I know I struggle with this. As all of us get dependent on our technology and as it becomes kind of the keeper of our lives and all of our knowledge and everything right there. But if we want to be our best selves for us personally and for our families, and if we want to be the best leaders we can, and we want to function at 100% of our capacity, we have to do a reset periodically and consistently. And I believe that disconnecting from technology is one of those things. Taking the time to let your mind just be. I was speaking to my wife about a few of these things, and we were talking about how good it is to disconnect. And she was just saying that in life, not only in disconnecting from technology, but she was just saying sometimes in life, part of disconnecting is letting go in our fast-paced lives of some of the complications that we inflict upon ourselves. Sometimes, she was just saying, sometimes we just overcomplicate things when we don't need to make them complicated. She was referring to the seeming need, right, to make every event, big or small, in life Pinterest worthy, right? Make it so that it can, you could put it on Pinterest, you could put it on social media somewhere. So just, you have that perfect picture. Everything's just picture perfect. But man, it just doesn't need to be. It just doesn't need to be. We try to, to make things more complicated than they need to be in life. I know when we were camping, it was really easy. I don't know if you've done this when you're about to go camping and you're going to be away or on a trip of any kind. And all of a sudden you think, okay, you start making this list and you start bringing every possible thing you can need. I know I did this last camping trip. I brought a whole bunch of things that I thought would be fun, a bunch of activities for the kids, a bunch of different things. But you know what's funny? And this happens every time. In the end, what do the kids actually want to do? They just want to run around. They just want to run around, run through the grass and the trees and just climb the trees. They want to, throw sticks in the fire. they want to eat s'mores, and sleep in a tent. I mean, can't get any better than that. And it can't get any more simple than that. And we often try to overcomplicate life. Peter Drucker said, the best way to predict the future is to create it. The best way to predict the future is to create it. And that can be applied to so many parts of our lives, right? But I'm going to apply it to this today. In order to unplug and reset, on a consistent basis in our lives, we have to take the time to create it. We have to create the time. If we don't create it ourselves, it's not going to happen. And so we'll never receive the benefits that come from unplugging and resetting consistently. Whether that's every day for an hour or two, every week, maybe on a Saturdays, you just leave your phone completely. Maybe it's, once a month, you go on a little camping trip and you go away. Whatever it might be, taking the time where we make the decision to disconnect, or whether even if you don't want to, but there's no cell phone coverage, like in my case with camping, it helps. But any of those things can work. So just take a few short hours this week. This is the challenge. Take a few short hours this week away from your technology. Choose an evening, choose a weekend, choose something, but just take a few short hours that you schedule ahead of time and turn off the technology. Leave it at home and see how you feel with that little mini reset. I'm guessing this is not the first time you've heard this. I'm guessing you've heard this challenge multiple times. If not in the last few months, in the last year, I'm sure that you have received this challenge from someone. Is it becoming more and more common to have the need to be able to disconnect? And so here I am, one more time saying, just do it this time. Just do it this time. And take the time to disconnect and see how you feel. Give it a shot. You got this. Until next week.
Thanks for joining me on this week's episode of the Flavor of Leadership podcast. If you enjoyed what you heard, please share it with a friend. And if you haven't already, subscribe, rate, and review the show on your favorite podcast player. If you have any questions, comments, or feedback for us, you can reach me directly at flavorofleadership.com. Thanks for listening.